All right, so we're back, and this time we're diving straight back into the world of Squid Game.
Oh, yeah.
Season 2, Episode 3, Bonds and Betrayals.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is.
Yeah.
If you remember how we left off last time, remember that announcement
Right.
about alliances?
Oh, yeah. Things are going to get shaken up.
They're going to be tested, and, well, this episode really explores how far people will go when their survival's at stake.
Yeah, that announcement really kicks things off with like this wave of paranoia. Like you can just feel the entire dormitory change. Like trust just evaporates, and everyone's just scrambling to figure out what to do.
It's almost like the game went from dangerous to like psychological warfare, right?
Yeah.
And you see all these different approaches from the players.
You see,
Gi-hun, she's like full on aggressive.
yeah.
Right. She's like, you're either with me or you're against me, basically.
It's like a classic power play.
It is.
Like a raw power play.
Do you think that's the best strategy, though, in a game like this?
I mean, it is effective, right?
Yeah.
She gets a team of strong players together.
Right.
Which, seems pretty smart.
Seems like it makes sense on the surface.
Yeah, but Squid Game, it's not just about being physically strong.
Right.
It's designed to break people down mentally and emotionally.
Absolutely.
So, a purely physical strategy may not be enough.
Right. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have Gi-hun.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's almost become like this beacon of hope, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's
To
interesting.
the players that feel vulnerable.
Oh, totally. They see him as someone who actually cares.
Right.
Someone who might actually help them survive this nightmare.
Yeah.
And, it's like his leadership is like the opposite of what you'd expect
Right.
in this cutthroat environment.
Yeah.
Instead of dominance or manipulation, Gi-hun's all about cooperation,
Right.
empathy, trying to actually build trust,
Hmm.
which is kind of radical.
It's wild when you think about the circumstances, right?
Yeah, totally.
So let's dive into the main event of this episode,
Yeah.
which is Game 3, Balancing Scales. This game is crazy.
Yeah.
It's teams of 5, 3 rounds, strength, puzzle solving, and negotiation.
Ooh, that's a lot.
And in order to survive, you have to win 2 out of the 3.
Oh, wow.
Talk about pressure, right?
Talk about pressure.
So what do you think is the most interesting thing about this game?
Well, I think what's really cool is how it forces those alliances,
Right.
like right into direct conflict.
Yeah.
And it really exposes everyone's strengths and weaknesses,
Oh, yeah.
You can't just rely on one skill set.
Right.
You need a team that can adapt and that can trust each other.
Right.
Like really trust each other.
And this is where I think it gets really interesting when
Yeah.
we focus on Gi-hun's team.
Okay.
We've got Gi-hun, obviously, Rami, Sumin, Mr. Park, and Eunwoo.
Yeah, pretty diverse group.
They are.
It's interesting.
They each bring something unique to the table, which makes their dynamics so fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Like, take Rami, for example.
Yeah.
He really shines in the puzzle round.
He does.
Like, he's the brains at the operation.
The brains.
And I think for anyone watching who loves, a good mental challenge,
Right.
that's a really satisfying moment.
It is.
It shows that, in Squid Game,
Yeah.
intelligence can be just as valuable as, brute strength.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's Eunwoo,
Who knew?
who thinks she's the obvious choice for the strength challenge.
Right, she's all about physical strength.
She is, and she's very confident, but it doesn't go exactly as planned.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's kind of a reminder that even the strongest people need to work together.
Right.
Teamwork, coordination, those are essential,
Yeah, yeah.
especially when the pressure's on.
It's a good insight into how the games are designed.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's Mr. Park.
Oh, Mr. Park?
This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Okay.
He volunteers for the negotiation round,
Oh, wow.
which throws everyone off.
Really?
Yeah, Sumin especially is like, no way.
Yeah.
She thinks he's way too kind
Too nice.
to be a good negotiator in this kind of cutthroat situation.
It's like, yeah, can compassion be a strength
Yeah.
in this kind of environment?
It makes you question, right? Like, what does it take to survive?
Totally.
And the amazing thing is,
Right.
he wins.
No way.
Yeah, he faces off against Gi-hun, who, is a master manipulator.
She's good.
But Mr. Park, he's just so calm and he's willing to compromise.
Interesting.
And it throws her off completely,
Wow, that's amazing.
It shows that emotional intelligence
Yeah.
can be just as powerful, right? As
Yeah.
brute force,
Yeah, definitely. Like understanding your opponent's emotions.
Right.
It's just as effective as trying to outsmart them.
Yeah, totally. But then we get this huge twist, right?
The losing teams have to vote one of their own members off.
Whoa.
Talk about a betrayal.
Oh, man.
All those alliances that were meant for protection
Yeah.
suddenly become a source of fear.
It's like the game turned everything upside down.
It's like they're playing with their minds.
Totally.
Right? And you see some of these alliances crumble under the pressure.
Oh, yeah.
You see Gi-hun's team, they turn on her, they accuse her of being a bad leader.
Right. But she's a survivor. She's not going down that easy.
No, she's not.
No.
She manages to, like, manipulate the situation
Wow.
and stay in the game. But it does cost her. Her authority is definitely weakened.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Her reputation is damaged.
Big time.
But on the other hand, Gi-hun's team,
Yeah.
they agreed to protect each other.
That's a nice contrast.
Which is such a, it's a good moment, but even within their team,
Yeah.
there's tension.
Oh, for sure.
You've got Sumin,
Right.
who's always been skeptical about trust.
She's seen some stuff. She's still on edge, so it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
Like, can this unity actually hold?
It's a good question.
You know?
It really gets to the core of what the show's about.
Yeah.
Can true unity exist in a game that's designed to pit people against each other?
It's like the ultimate test.
It is.
Now, let's shift gears for a sec and talk about the front man.
Okay.
We see him watching the games with this, like, intense fascination, right?
Yeah.
Especially with Gi-hun, as Gi-hun's influence grows.
He's definitely interested in him.
He's interesting. He even calls Gi-hun a disruptor, which
It can't be good.
doesn't sound good, right?
Yeah.
What do you make of the front man and his interest in Gi-hun?
Well, it's like he's fascinated by chaos,
Yeah.
right? Like he enjoys watching things unfold in this unpredictable way.
Yeah.
And Gi-hun, he's like this unexpected wrench in the works.
Right.
He's messing with his carefully crafted plans.
Yeah.
And I think to him, it's almost like Gi-hun's a threat to the entire system.
A threat to the order of the games. And there's even a point where one of the wealthy backers suggests intervening,
Really?
but the front man shuts that down immediately.
Wow.
So it seems like
Almost like...
the more chaotic the games get,
Yeah.
the more entertaining it is.
Right. Like for the VIPs pulling this
Yeah,
together.
yeah, for the VIPs, yeah.
There's this dark side to it, this philosophical conflict,
Yeah.
where the front man is driven by spectacle, even if it means suffering.
Right.
And then Gi-hun represents this, like, this hope.
Hope, compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And then back in the dormitory,
Okay.
things get even crazier.
Oh, no.
Heijin, she's desperate to regain some control.
Yeah.
She sets her sights on Gi-hun's group, and
Alright.
she tries to manipulate Rami,
Oh, boy.
promising him protection if he switches sides.
Classic divide and conquer.
It is.
Like, yeah.
It's classic divide and conquer, but
Yeah.
Gi-hun sees right through it.
Good.
Yeah, he does.
I'm glad.
What do you think of that move by Heijin?
Pretty smart. You know, like, she's resilient.
She is.
Even after that setback, she comes up with a new plan.
Right.
But I think it reveals a flaw, you know?
What's that?
She underestimates those bonds of trust
Yeah.
that Gi-hun's team has built.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where I think it gets really interesting because Gi-hun,
Yeah.
he warns Rami about Heijin's manipulation,
Okay.
but he doesn't try to control him.
Really?
Yeah, he gives Rami the agency to make his own choice.
That's risky.
It's a bold move,
It is.
considering what's at stake, right?
For sure.
And it's
It
like,
really shows Gi-hun's leadership.
it
He
does.
trusts his allies, even when everyone's paranoid.
Yeah.
It's the opposite of Gi-hun, you know?
Yeah, totally.
It's like trust versus fear.
Right. And it seems like that trust is starting to spread.
Really?
You see more of the vulnerable players rallying around Gi-hun.
Interesting.
Like they're inspired by Mr. Park's win.
It's like a power shift.
It is a power shift. And it makes you wonder, right? Like, are we headed for a clash?
A clash of the titans.
Right. Between these two emerging factions.
It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
It is. And then just as the episode's ending,
Yeah.
bam, another bombshell.
No.
Alliances are no longer guaranteed in the next game.
Oh, my gosh.
Talk about raising the stakes.
Wow.
It throws everything into disarray.
Everything up in the air again.
Everyone has to rethink their strategy, their loyalties.
That uncertainty.
It's intense.
So much potential for betrayal.
It is. And as if that weren't enough,
What?
Gi-hun finds a note under his pillow.
Oh, no.
And it reads, "Not everyone is who they seem. Trust no one."
Chills.
Right.
Yeah.
It really is chill.
It makes you question everything.
It makes you question everything.
Who sent it?
Right.
What's their agenda?
Yeah. Is it a genuine warning or is it, an attempt to mess with Gi-hun?
It's such a good cliffhanger.
And the episode ends with this close-up on Gi-hun's face.
Oh, man.
And you can just see the suspicion in his eyes. But you can also see that determination.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he knows he's in a fight.
He's not giving up.
And he's not backing down.
I love that.
What do you think that ending signifies?
I think it's about resilience, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's facing all these betrayals, impossible odds.
Yeah.
He's not going to abandon his principles.
He's not giving up on those he cares about.
Yeah. It's a powerful image of hope in this really dark situation.
It really is.
Yeah.
So that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into Squid Game Season 2, Episode 3.
That was a lot.
We've covered a lot. We've talked about the alliances forming, the challenges of leadership.
The betrayals,
Right? This constant threat of not knowing who to trust.
Yeah, it's like psychological torture.
It is. It's heavy stuff.
It is.
As we head into part 2,
Okay.
think about the implications of that note.
Okay.
Think about the shifting power dynamics
Right.
and this potential clash that we might see between Gi-hun's group and, everyone else.
Ooh, I can't wait.
And most importantly, ask yourself, if you were Gi-hun, who would you trust?
Good question.
And how would you navigate this web of deceit and danger?
I don't know.
It's a tough one.
It is.
Guys.
Can't wait to dive into part 2.
Me too. We'll be right back.
Man, that note Gi-hun found really changes things, huh?
Oh, yeah.
It's such a classic thriller move.
Right.
But it works so well here because, it taps into that fear we all have.
Right.
The fear of the unknown, not knowing who to trust.
It's like the game just got even more intense, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, psychologically, everyone's a suspect now.
Right.
Gi-hun can't even be sure that the people who have been loyal to him are really on his side.
Exactly.
And that's got to be terrifying, especially after what happened with Gi-hun and Rami.
Totally. That whole thing becomes even more suspicious after the note, right?
Yeah.
Did Rami really choose Gi-hun?
Right.
Or is he playing some deeper
It
game?
makes you question everyone's motives.
Yeah, the uncertainty is what makes this episode so good.
It really is. It makes you wonder, if you were Gi-hun, could you trust anyone at all?
Right. Or would you just assume everyone's out for themselves?
Yeah, it's bleak, but, this is Squid Game we're talking about.
It's a Squid Game. The stakes are high.
The life or death.
Exactly. And, speaking of shifting alliances,
Yeah.
the power dynamics in the dorm are changing big time.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
You've got Gi-hun, who's lost a lot of influence after that whole power play thing.
Yeah, she's not looking so good.
And then on the other side, you've got Gi-hun, whose leadership is attracting more and more followers.
It's like they're forming 2 different tribes,
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You got Gi-hun's tribe, strength, manipulation, every man for himself.
Right.
And then you got Gi-hun's tribe, who are drawn to his compassion, this idea of unity. This idea that maybe they can get through this together.
Yeah, exactly.
But can compassion really win in this kind of environment?
It's a good question. The people running the game seem to thrive on chaos,
They do?
Like, they enjoy watching the players tear each other apart.
It's messed up.
It is. Like, what does that say about them?
I know. It's like they get off on it.
Right, and it makes you think about, the morality of the whole thing.
Yeah, like, are they just providing entertainment for these rich elites?
Right, or is there something even darker going on?
It's disturbing.
It is. These players are risking their lives not for some noble cause, but for the amusement of a few bored billionaires.
Yeah, and it makes you think about our own society,
Oh, yeah.
Like, are we becoming desensitized to suffering?
Are we entertained by other people's misfortune?
It's a question we all got to ask ourselves.
I think so.
Squid Game really makes us look in the mirror.
It does.
It forces us to confront some ugly truths.
About inequality, exploitation, desperation.
Yeah, all of it.
And, back to Gi-hun.
Yeah.
He's facing this impossible dilemma.
Right. He wants to protect these people who are looking up to him. But he's got this warning in his head. Trust no one.
And now, with this new rule, no guaranteed alliances.
It's a whole new level of messed up.
What's he supposed to do?
Right. He's caught between wanting to be good
Yeah.
and just surviving.
And the game is making it so hard.
Yeah. And this new rule, it makes it even harder to trust anyone.
Oh, absolutely.
Even his closest allies.
Even himself, right.
It's like, can his compassion even survive this?
We've talked a lot about trust and betrayal.
Yeah.
But I think this episode also highlights something else. Sacrifice.
Oh, yeah.
think about Mr. Park in that negotiation round.
Yeah,
He was ready to put himself at risk for his team.
he was.
It was a really powerful moment.
It was, especially in this world where everyone's just trying to save themselves.
Right. It's like he reminds us that even in this messed up game,
Yeah,
there's still some humanity left.
there is.
And it makes Gi-hun's leadership even more important, you know?
Totally.
He's not just trying to survive. He's
Right.
trying to hold on to that hope.
That belief that people can be good.
Yeah, even when surrounded by so much darkness.
It's something we can all relate to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all face those choices where we have to decide,
Right.
do we look out for ourselves?
Or do we help others?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one, and it's wild how this fictional show
I know.
can tap into such real, deep questions.
That's brilliant.
So, as we head into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay, here we go.
I'm really curious to see how all of this plays out.
Me too.
We've got Gi-hun leading this group of vulnerable players.
The underdogs.
We've got Gi-hun trying to claw her way back to power.
She's not done yet.
And then we've got the front man pulling all the strings.
The puppet master.
It's going to be wild.
I can't wait.
All right, so we're back, and the stakes have never been higher in Squid Game.
Oh, absolutely.
We left off with Gi-hun facing that impossible choice, right?
Yeah. Trust no one.
Just no one, but lead this group that needs to believe in something.
Right. And then they add that rule change on top of it.
Oh, yeah, no more guaranteed alliances.
Oh, man.
It's almost like they're trying to break them.
They are.
Right. Yeah.
Psychologically, I mean.
Yeah, it's like a pressure cooker of paranoia in there.
It's intense.
Makes you wonder how you'd handle it.
I know. It's pretty terrifying to think about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you think you can rely on these people, and then suddenly the rules change. You can't even be sure about your closest allies.
You just never know who's going to stab you in the back.
It really makes you question, like, can any kind of trust survive in this game?
That's the big question, right?
It is.
Is betrayal just the price of survival?
Yeah, and we've seen both sides of it in this episode.
We have.
Like, we see what happens with Gi-hun's manipulation.
Right, it backfires.
But then we also see Mr. Park winning with compassion.
It's like two opposite approaches.
It is.
And it makes you think, like, what's the right way to play?
Yeah. Is it every man for himself? Or is there a way to win and still hold on to your humanity?
That's what makes this season so interesting. It is.
It's not just a game. It's a study of human nature.
Right.
It makes us think about what we would do in these situations.
And I keep thinking about that note.
Yeah. Not everyone is who they seem.
Not everyone is who they seem.
So creepy.
It just makes you question everything.
Everything.
And I'm especially worried about Rami.
Oh, yeah. He's in a tough spot.
He is.
Caught between Gi-hun and Gi-hun.
And with the new rule change, it's even worse.
Yeah, like who can he trust?
It's like they're forcing him to choose between loyalty and survival.
It's a brutal test.
It is.
And it reminds us that these games are designed to mess with people's heads.
Totally. It's not just about strength or strategy.
No, it's about breaking them down psychologically.
And then there's the front man.
Yeah, always watching.
Watching everything unfold.
Like he's fascinated by it all.
But also kind of worried, right?
Yeah, I think he sees Gi-hun as a threat.
A threat to his control.
Exactly, like Gi-hun represents something the front man can't control.
Compassion, hope.
Yeah, and that scares him.
So as we wrap up, the big question is, what happens next?
I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
Will Gi-hun and his group make it?
Can they beat the odds?
What about the front man? What will he do?
So many questions.
That's the brilliance of the show, though, right?
It keeps you guessing.
It makes you think about these big questions.
Yeah, about ourselves, about the world.
And it sticks with you long after it's over.
Totally. Like, the game isn't really about winning or losing.
Right.
It's about how you play.
It's about the choices you make.
Do you give in to the darkness?
Or do you hold on to your humanity?
Even when it seems impossible.
That's the challenge Squid Game throws at us.
And it's one we should all think about.
Absolutely. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Squid Game Season 2, Episode 3, Bonds and Betrayals. We've seen alliances tested, trust broken, and the emergence of two very different approaches to survival in this twisted game. But the biggest takeaway for me is that even in the darkest of circumstances, hope and compassion can still exist. It's a reminder that we all have a choice in how we navigate the challenges life throws at us. We can choose to be like Gi-hun, driven by fear and self-preservation, or we can choose to be like Gi-hun, fighting to hold on to our humanity and protect those around us. Ultimately, it's those choices that define who we are. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and until next time, keep playing the game your way.